Hi there, hope you're having a pleasant day wherever you may be. This morning, I was walking through the desert and I came across a snake. But don't worry, this one can't bite. I'm at the Snake Geoglyph near Parker, Arizona. The snake, or I've even seen it called the serpent geoglyph, is located about 12 or so miles outside of the town of Parker, Arizona. So, what exactly is the snake geoglyph? Well, for starters, there's not a whole lot of information about this particular one online that I could find. However, geoglyphs in general are basically just large drawings done on the earth, and they can be done in a couple of different styles. This one looks to be like they sort of scraped away the top layer of soil from a darker to reveal a lighter color. Which is very similar to some of the other geoglyphs that we've seen in the area, and they refer to those as intaglios. So it would make me think that this also would be considered an intaglio. Based on the little bit of information that I could find, believed to be a rattlesnake because this area down here of the tail appears to be the rattle. Now I can't quite tell if it's just over there or if that includes this little patch here. So I'm just kind of walking around both just to be on the safe side. Like all geoglyphs, it's tough to get a sense of their scope from ground level. You don't get a real good view of them, so it's better to view them from up above in the air. And that's what I have here. I've got a few seconds of above shots of the snake to give you a sense of what it looks like and a little bit of the size. You can kind of see me in a couple of the shots to get a sense of just how big these things are. This particular one seems to be fairly large. It extends maybe, I don't know, 100 or so feet in length. And that's just kind of walking straight. It's curved like a snake, so you can add a few more feet for that reason. Unfortunately, it can be difficult to discern just how old some of these artifacts are, and researchers aren't sure if they're as young as a few hundred years old or as old as several thousand years old. Now, there's no information here for me to go off of, so my assumption would be they'd probably be made by the similar people that made the other geoglyphs in the area of this Colorado Mojave region of the Southwest. Speaking of not having any sort of kiosk to work off of or information, I guess I'll just say that this is probably the most wild geoglyph I've come across of the ones I've visited in this area. There's no immediate fence protecting it, so you can walk right up to it if you want. As a matter of fact, if you're not even paying attention and it's the wrong time of day, you might walk over it if you didn't know better. Obviously, with that comes some pros and cons. One of them is you get to explore it really closely if you'd like. The other is that there's a little more responsibility on your part to not disturb it and allow it to be preserved for other people to come visit and appreciate. The lack of infrastructure and the fact that there's not a lot of people that have visited out here and posted the directions online. It was a little harder to find. One of the sites I came across did have some pretty decent directions that sort of narrowed it down, which I wasn't able to find it on Google Maps. And eventually I just came out here and hoped for the best, and I was able to find it. It was not the easiest, but it was not hard either. And it was because of that, my original plan was to just sort of tack this on to the Bouse Fisherman video, which if you like, you can check that out right here. But because it ended up being a little bit more of a challenge, and it didn't really even make sense because the fisherman's like an hour away from here. They're not exactly close to each other. I decided to give this one its own treatment. As far as visiting, I usually don't provide like turn-by-turn directions because typically the places I go to, you can find them with a quick Google search. But this one, there's no Google pin, so you kind of have to find this one on your own. With that said, you're going to want to start off just south of Parker on Shea Road and go east. You're going to be on that road for about 10 or 12 miles. The first 3 or 4 are really rough because there's potholes and stuff. But then, for whatever reason, magically, the road becomes perfect. And you're going to take that all the way to Swansea Mine Road. The way you'll know is there's a little sign that says Swansea 17 miles, and you're just going to make a right turn there. That's actually the turnoff right there, so you don't have to come down Swansea Road very far. On the left-hand side, you'll see an opening in the barbed wire fence and a small sign that designates this as an archaeological site. And that's essentially it for the infrastructure here. There's nothing else. You're going to walk up a trail that's kind of clearly defined for the first, I don't know, 100 feet or so, and then it just kind of spills out into just rocky area. At one point, I was walking on, it looked like a trail, and then it looked like it kind of could have been a geoglyph, but I don't think it was. I think it is a trail, but you never know. What made me a little concerned was that it leads to a rock ring, which could be an artifact in and of itself. So, yeah, just be careful while you're walking, mind your step. However, with that said, in the wrong time of day, and if you're looking at the wrong angle of the sun, it can be really hard to spot geoglyphs. So I was constantly paranoid when I first got here that I was going to walk over it and not even realize it. To help quell those worries of yours, I'm just going to kind of do a little pan here. So that's where you're going to walk up. You're going to kind of come this way here, and I don't know if you can make it out in the camera, but right there is sort of a flat, dark spot. That's where the snake geoglyph is. Like I said, at this low angle, it can be a little hard to spot, especially from a distance, but once you do, you know exactly where it's at. Well, that does it for this one. Thanks for joining me on this trip to the Snake Geoglyph outside of Parker, Arizona. Hope you found it interesting, hope you found it informative, and maybe it'll encourage you to come check it out yourself. With that said, I guess I'll see you on the next one. Snakes. Why did it have to be snakes?